So we formed this segment because in researching this subject, we came across this sort of series of quotes from Swedenborg that describe this particular phenomenon related to the spirits around a person and how they and the person sort of swap positions in dreaming. Okay, so let's take a look first at a diagram, a world-class diagram. So there on the left we have a person. The Swedenborg in this case, as the story will go, but could be any of us. And then floating up like they do, spirits, right? So there's spirits with every person. And so this is everybody, everyone's awake. But now let's take a look at some things Swedenborg says. First, some groundwork. Spirits do dream. Last night there were many spirits around me, about someone or several of whom I spoke in the morning, and I heard that they had been sleeping, and in fact pleasantly, as I also perceived. So sleep is also a state proper to spirits, as it is to people on earth. When I was nearly awake, but before I woke up, various lights appeared to me, something bright having glittering bubbles, something darker, then something colored. I was told that there are lights like these in their sleep, with variety. And I also realized that they too had dreams, and pleasant ones, without my having had dreams at the same time. For it is known that when a person on earth is in their company, the person has dreams together with them, spoken of several times. But in this instance, they had dreams, and I had not. So, you can be co-dreaming with spirits. Let's take a look at our next diagram. In this particular case, though, as you see, this is how these diagrams are going to work. Everyone's asleep. But the spirits were having a certain dream, and Swedenborg on the ground was not having that same dream. So those little dream catchers mean dreaming. So that configuration can apply as well. Okay, let's thicken our plot a little bit. This is from Spiritual Experiences 3792. Certain ones imagined in their sleep that they were about to attack me. They were also dreaming, just as I was, that they were besieging a certain castle. So everyone's dreaming together at this point. After the capture of which they were going to attack me, I had woken up in the dream, speaking with those who imagined they were awake, talking about the castle they were besieging, and saying that they would seize me next and tear me to pieces. They imagined that at that time they had been fully awake, as I clearly learned from them, but I told them that they were dreaming, which they would hardly acknowledge, still speaking as though it had really happened. At length, I think, they acknowledged that they had been dreaming. This is what the life of such spirits is like, namely, that while enveloped in dream, they suppose they are awake and have such fantasies. So, next diagram. A couple things. First of all, spirits, when they're dreaming, it's hard for them to tell the difference. But this is... all these guys were sharing a dream, but Swedenborg, on the left there, could wake up and talk to them while they were still dreaming, and they're sort of sleep talking back to him, and he could no, you're not actually going to attack me. Oh, what? Really? We're not? All right, so that's another configuration. But then we kind of flip things here. Spiritual Experiences 664. I wakened during a dream, and there appeared to me a spirit who still continued the dream, okay? I could thence observe the state of spirits in dreams, which is scarcely different from that of man, for the exterior or corporeal things which remain in the spirit are quiescent, like the corporeal things of man in sleep, as I manifestly perceived. For this spirit could pay attention to nothing whatever except that which was then being turned over in his animus. He was talking as though he did not know that he was talking. His externals were asleep, his internals were thus in a dream. So spirits in this dream state like we are. But listen to this next one, Spiritual Experiences 164. This is where it sort of describes that when we are sleeping, they are awake, and when we are awake... Anyway, you'll see. I have sometimes pondered what the state of spirits was like when they are together with a person living an everyday life. For even I have doubted at times that there were spirits and angels around people as they are with me, for the simple reason that I did not sense them, being persuaded also by the commonplace reason that I did not see them. And indeed, I noticed that usually their state when left to themselves, as they are when the person they are with is sleeping, was dreamlike in various ways, whereas when the person was awake, it altered, but still differing entirely from their state when with me spoken of elsewhere. I mean that when some person was speaking or interacting with me, they were instrumental means, in such a way that they were not aware of what they heard or saw, as they admitted. Immediately after the verbal exchange, when I reflected inwardly into my spirit, then they seemed to come to themselves and to realize that they were lives by themselves, separate and separable from people. All right, quick, back to the diagram. That was confusing. It says, all right, so there's sort of a dreamlike state. Swedenborg is talking to somebody off screen, and while he's interacting with that, it's almost like the spirits with him go into a dream state. They're not aware that how when we're in dreams, you don't quite realize always that you're a person. Sometimes you're just observing things. They're what he calls instrumental means, so they're like facilitating the interaction, not fully aware. But when he turned and began to just contemplate to himself, they all realized, oh wait, we're spirits. We are these beings, and they started to come to themselves. So that makes me think of, how when you sort of have two different minds in a way, don't you? I mean, when your sort of social mind and then your self-contemplative, introspective mind. Because if you're like talking to somebody and trying to make a conversation work and try to not look that stupid during it, you think sort of differently than when you just are alone and kind of contemplating your worldview and your story you've written about your life. And is that the spirits are sort of like asleep, like they're lucid, but we're all focused on this person. But once you get back into your they're like, oh wait, I'm this spirit, and because of their self-awareness, you fall into this different kind of narrative or something. Okay, weird, right? Let's end that on just something happy. This is Spiritual Experiences 3878. There was a certain one above my head who spoke with me, and from his tone I could tell that he was in a state of sleep, who spoke with me, and in fact, not as if he were asleep, asking this or that, and indeed as those who are awake, with such prudence that when awake he could not have spoken more prudently, so that nothing was anything like a dream except the tone. I realized that good inward angels were speaking through him, and that in that state he was understanding and expressing what they said. I asked him about that state of mind, and told him that he was in such a state that he does not speak anything but what is good and true, and realizes if it is other than good and true, in which case he does not entertain it or utter it. So in that state he was like one awake, but since he was in a sleeping state, he told me that this is a peaceful state. I felt his delight in it from the fact that I love to be in a like state, for then one is free from every care and worry about things of the future. In this manner people also perform uses. So there's a guy, a spirit, that Swedenborg is interacting with, you can tell by the tone of his voice that he's dreaming, but the things he's saying are wise and they're true and they're loving. And Swedenborg was thinking, well, how is this guy talking so clearly? How is his mind functioning so well? It turns out that he was connected to angels, like the inward angels, the higher angels that were shooting this love and truth through him. And that he was, because of that connection, able to say these things, and also even to tell when he was thinking about things, is something evil or negative or false coming into me? I know that immediately. So he sort of had this angelic mind because of this connection with him. And he said it was peaceful and happy, and that at the end it said people can even do useful things while they're in this state. So that's a cool state. Maybe you felt something, maybe you've had a dream that felt like it.